That freezing Thanksgiving, I pulled over to help an elderly couple with a flat tire. What started as a simple act of kindness on a deserted highway ended with my mom's terrified scream down the phone a week later, and my life completely turned upside down. It was November 23rd, Thanksgiving, 4:47 p.m. The snow was a furious blizzard whipping across Route 95 North. That's when I saw them, an old maroon sedan, probably a '98 Buick, listing tragically on the shoulder. Its front tire was shredded, just absolutely torn to pieces. An elderly man, his thin jacket soaked through, wrestled with a lug nut, his hands trembling violently. Behind him, his wife huddled, her gray hair a wild storm around her face, arms wrapped tight against the merciless wind. Hundreds of cars streaked past, their red taillights flashing momentary concern, maybe guilt, before vanishing into the whiteout. Everyone was rushing towards warmth, safety somewhere else. But I just couldn't. I flipped my blinker, pulling my Honda CR-V over. "Stay in the car, Emma," I told my 7-year-old daughter, clicking on the child locks. "Keep the heat on, Daddy will be right back." Her innocent voice pierced the quiet of our car. "Are they going to freeze, Daddy?" Not if I could help it, I thought, my heart aching. The moment I opened my door, the wind hit me like a physical blow, a frozen hammer. It was 23 degrees, the kind of cold that burns your lungs. I marched forward, head down against the sleet. "Oh, please," the woman cried out, her voice thin, desperate. "You don't need to stop. We've called for help. It's on the way." I shouted back, fighting the gale, "I've got a jack that actually works. Let's get you off this road before someone hits you." The man extended a trembling hand, blue with cold. "William, this is my wife, Margaret," he managed. I gripped his ice-cold hand firmly, introducing myself. "Stuart." His eyes, though shadowed by exhaustion, were a piercing, intelligent blue. I saw it instantly, the humiliation of a proud man, suddenly old, suddenly helpless. I knelt on the wet, freezing pavement. The cold instantly soaked through my jeans. My fingers were numb within 30 seconds as I grappled with frozen metal and rusted bolts. "Tell me where you're headed," I grunted, wrestling a stubborn lug nut. "Grandchildren," Margaret chimed in, a fragile smile breaking through her violent shivers. "4 of them, the youngest is 5. We're already so late for dinner." "My daughter's 7, I replied, finally feeling the lug wrench catch. "She's watching us like a hawk from the backseat, probably timing me." They looked towards my car, and Emma's little face was pressed against the window, her breath fogging the glass. She waved enthusiastically. Margaret let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "Oh, she's precious," she whispered. 15 brutal minutes later, the spare tire was on. My hands were bleeding, scraped raw against the frozen metal. My jeans were soaked through. I honestly stopped feeling my feet around minute 12. William, his hands still shaking, fumbled for his wallet. "Please let me give you something, gas, money, anything." I gently pushed his hand away. "Absolutely not, it's Thanksgiving, just pass it on someday." "At least your address," Margaret pleaded, "so we can thank you properly." "Just Stuart," I said, already heading back to my car. "Go see your grandkids, be safe." As I climbed into the driver's seat, Emma, quick as a flash, rolled down her window before I could stop her. "Wait." She screamed into the wind, extending a crinkled piece of paper. Margaret hurried over, taking it with such care. It was Emma's drawing from that morning. Stick figures with giant smiles, a car with X's for eyes, her representation of a broken-down vehicle. And scrawled in purple crayon, "Emma and Daddy help people." In my rearview mirror, as I pulled away, I saw William staring at that drawing, then at my retreating car like he was trying to memorize its license plate. I thought nothing of it. A week later, life had settled back into its usual messy rhythm. Bills piled up unopened on the kitchen counter. The roof still stubbornly leaked into Emma's bedroom every time it rained, a constant drip I'd been catching with buckets for 3 long months. My custody agreement with my ex-wife Rachel meant I had Emma every other week, and this was our week. It was a blur of school lunches, homework battles, and bedtime stories I'd read, fighting sleep myself. I worked as a high school math tutor, pulling in a meager $28 an hour. It was barely enough to get by after the divorce had utterly cleaned me out. Rachel got the house in Newton, the new car, and a monthly payment that left me just enough to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Quincy and keep Emma fed. But we were happy. Emma was happy, and that truly was all that mattered. It was Tuesday morning, December 1st, 8:43 a.m. I was meticulously crafting Emma's peanut butter and jelly sandwich, crusts off, cut diagonally, precisely how she liked it, when my phone buzzed on the counter. Mom, calling at 8:43 in the morning, never a good sign. "Hey, Mom," I answered, trying to sound casual. "Can I call you back? I'm getting Emma ready for Stuart. Turn on the TV now, channel 7. Her voice, sharp with panic, cut me off. "Mom, what? Just turn it on." The sheer terror in her voice made my hands go cold. I grabbed the remote with one hand, phone still pressed to my ear with the other. Click, channel 7. I dropped the butter knife. There they were, sitting composed and utterly transformed on the new studio sofa in Boston's WBZ studio. William and Margaret, but they were not the shivering, fragile couple from the roadside. William wore a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than my entire car. Margaret was radiant, dressed in emerald green with pearls gleaming around her neck. They looked like they belonged on the cover of a glossy magazine, not stranded on the shoulder of I-95. The text at the bottom of the screen screamed, "Former Senator William Harrington and wife break silence." "Senator," I whispered, the word catching in my throat. "Daddy," Emma shrieked, pointing with her spoon, milk dripping. "That's them, the tire people." The The news anchor Janet Chen, 23 years at WBZ, the graphic helpfully informed me, looked completely starstruck. Senator Harrington, you haven't given a public interview in 10 years. What brings you out of retirement today? William leaned forward, his presence commanding even through the screen. Janet, he began, his voice deep and resonant, we live in a cynical time. Everyone believes kindness is a transaction, that people only help each other when there's something to gain. He paused, letting the camera hold on his face. Last week, my wife and I were stranded on Route 95 in dangerous conditions. It was snowing, freezing, hundreds of cars passed us, hundreds, we were invisible. Margaret reached for his hand, her eyes glistening. But one man stopped. He had his little girl in the car. He worked in the freezing sleet for 20 minutes. He ruined his clothes just getting us safe. When we tried to pay him, he refused, wouldn't even give us his last name. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat. William continued, reaching into his jacket pocket. His daughter, though, she gave us something. He held up Emma's drawing. The camera zoomed in, the purple crayon, the stick figures, the beautifully misspelled words. We are looking for this man, William declared, staring directly into the camera lens, straight into my eyes. Because that young father restored my faith in humanity more than 20 years in the United States Senate ever did. We're offering a reward, Margaret added, her voice cracking slightly. $25,000 to the Good Samaritan who helped us. No strings attached, just our gratitude. My grip on the counter tight. $25,000, my mind reeled, the leaky roof, Emma's college fund, the credit card debt from the divorce, the medical bills from last year's emergency room visit. Sir, William said, his sharp blue eyes boring through the screen, if you're watching, please come forward, we want to thank you properly. Daddy, Emma shrieked, jumping off her chair. We're famous, can I tell my teacher? Just when I thought my life couldn't get any wilder. By the way, if you're still hooked on this unbelievable story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've got so many more tailies to share. But before I could even process the shock, before I could figure out what to do next, a heavy knock echoed from my front door. Not a doorbell, a loud, authoritative knock. Official. My heart pounded. I peered through the peephole. Two men in dark suits, earpieces discreetly tucked in, stood on my doorstep. Behind them, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows idled in my driveway. I opened the door slowly. Mr. Stuart Whitman, the taller one asked, early 40s, square jaw, and unmistakable ex-military bearing. Yes, that's me. My name is Agent Daniel Ross, private security for Senator William Harrington. This is Agent Marcus Webb. The senator would like to speak with you. May we come in? Let me pause here for a moment. This wasn't just any William Harrington. This was Senator William Harrington, 22 years in the U.S. Senate, chairman of the powerful Finance Committee, the architect of the Harrington-Mitchell Health Care Act that brought coverage to 12 million people. He had retired in 2014, disappearing from public life after his daughter died in a car accident, a drunk driver. It made national news, and I, clueless, had changed his tire. Agent Ross explained everything as I stood there in my kitchen, still clutching that butter knife, Emma hiding shyly behind my legs. The senator saw your interview this morning on Channel 7, Ross stated. I didn't do an interview, I stammered. Your neighbor did, he replied, a faint smile touching his lips. Mrs. Chen from apartment 3B, she recognized your car in the driveway and called the station. They aired footage of her describing the local hero who lived in her building. Your license plate was visible in the background. My stomach plummeted. Oh my God, the senator would like to meet you today if possible. He's at the Four Seasons downtown. I have to take Emma to school, I mumbled, still reeling. We'll drive you both. The senator specifically asked that Emma come too. He wants to thank her for the drawing. Emma peeked out from behind my legs. Is the tire lady going to be there? Ross's smile widened, transforming his entire face. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Harrington is very excited to meet you. The presidential suite at the Four Seasons was bigger than my entire apartment. William and Margaret were waiting. The moment they saw Emma, Margaret's hands flew to her mouth. Oh, sweetheart, she cried, kneeling down. Thank you for your beautiful picture. We have it framed now. Would you like to see? She led Emma to the mantel where, in an expensive silver frame, sat Emma's purple crayon drawing. William approached me, extending his hand. Stuart, he said, his voice softer than on TV. I'm glad we found you. Senator, I didn't know, I confessed, suddenly feeling incredibly awkward. That's exactly why we're here, he replied, gesturing to the couch. Please sit, we need to talk. For the next hour, William shared their story. He'd been driving back from a doctor's appointment in Portland, Maine. Margaret had insisted on coming, refusing to let him drive alone anymore after his heart attack 2 years prior. The tire blew on I-95. He'd called AAA, but the wait was 3 hours. They'd tried changing it themselves. I'm 73 years old, William said quietly, a profound weariness in his voice. I can negotiate international treaties, but I can't change a damn tire anymore. That realization, he said, was humbling. You stopped, Margaret interjected, her eyes fixed on me. You had your daughter in the car. You were probably going somewhere important, but you stopped. It was Thanksgiving, I said, and she was cold. William's eyes bright. That's what Margaret said. It was Thanksgiving and I was cold. That's the only reason you needed. He slid an envelope across the coffee table. This is the reward we promised, a $25,000 certified check. I stared at it, not daring to touch it. I can't accept that, Senator. I helped because it was the right thing to do, not for money. I know that, William said, which is precisely why you deserve it. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. I spent 22 years in Washington. I met thousands of people who wanted something from me: money, power, favors. You asked for nothing. You wouldn't even give us your last name. The money isn't charity, Margaret added, her voice firm. It's gratitude. There's a difference. Emma appeared from the bedroom, where she'd been captivated by Margaret's jewelry. Daddy, Mrs. Margaret has a necklace with a picture of her daughter in it. She was pretty. The room went utterly silent. Yes, she was, Margaret said softly, her voice thick with emotion. Her name was Caroline. She would have been 42 this year. William stood and walked to the window, his back to us. We lost her 11 years ago, drunk driver. She was driving home from her son's 5th birthday party. Emma looked at me confused, and I pulled her close, hugging her tight. After that, William continued, his voice barely a whisper, I couldn't do the work anymore, couldn't care about committee hearings, budgets, politics. Margaret and I moved to Maine, tried to disappear. But last week, Margaret interjected, tears now streaming down her face, we were driving to see Caroline's children for Thanksgiving, and you stopped with your little girl, and you helped us get there, do you understand? You got us to our grandchildren. We could have been stuck there for hours, we could have frozen, but you stopped. I accepted the check then, not because I wanted to, but because refusing it now felt like I was rejecting their profound gratitude, rejecting their healing. And they had already lost enough. The story exploded. That afternoon, it hit the local news. By 6 p.m., it was trending on Twitter. By 9 p.m., it was on CNN. Local father helps former senator, refuses reward until he learns why it matters. My phone absolutely exploded. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years, former coworkers, people from high school, everyone wanted to know if it was really me. Emma's school even called, asking if they could do a story for the newsletter. My landlord called, wondering if I'd truly received $25,000 because, the rent was increasing. Then Rachel called, my ex-wife, Emma's mother. The woman who'd left me 3 years ago because I lacked ambition, because I was content being mediocre. Stuart, she purred, a chillingly sweet tone. I saw the news. Hi, Rachel, $25,000, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is. Emma's college fund could really use that, and you're behind on child support. My grip tightened on the phone. I'm 1 week behind. I paid this month. Still, the money should go toward Emma's future. It's only fair. Rachel, we're not doing this. I'm calling my lawyer. She hung up, leaving a dial tone buzzing in my ear. The very next morning, December 2nd, a process server appeared at my door. Rachel was suing for half the reward money. Her lawyer, Daniel Shapiro, 15 years practicing family law, his letterhead proudly announced, argued that since Emma had given the drawing, Emma was partially responsible for the reward. Therefore, Rachel was entitled to half. I called the only lawyer I could afford, Timothy Reeves, a public defender turned family law attorney, at $150 an hour I didn't have. Tim read the petition, shaking his head. Stuart, this is something else, but unfortunately it has legs in court. She's claiming Emma's participation entitles her to compensation. Emma gave them a drawing. She's 7, I protested, incredulous. I know, Tim sighed, but Rachel's lawyer is smart. He's framing this as a community property issue, arguing that any windfall during your custody period is subject to division. Can she win? Maybe, depends on the judge, but Stuart, this is going to get expensive. Legal fees, court costs. Even if you win, you might spend $10,000 just defending it. So she gets to extort me? I asked, a bitter taste in my mouth. Welcome to family law, Tim said grimly. It got worse. A tabloid, Boston Now, the kind you see at grocery store checkouts, ran a piece on December 4th. Reward controversy, divorced dad faces battle over Good Samaritan money. They'd interviewed Rachel. She looked sympathetic, concerned. I just want what's best for Emma. Her father is wonderful, but he's never been good with money. I worry this windfall will be mismanaged. They'd interviewed my landlord. Stuart's a month behind on rent most of the time. Nice guy, but he struggles. They'd even found my old boss from the tutoring company. Stuart is passionate about helping kids, but he's not business-minded. I'm not surprised he's having financial issues. The narrative was clear, cruel, and everywhere. Poor single dad, bad with money, doesn't deserve this windfall. My phone exploded again, this time with judgment. You can't even pay rent on time. Maybe your ex-wife has a point. If you were really selfless, you'd give her half for Emma. Emma's teacher called, some parents concerned about the attention Emma was getting. Could I please keep a lower profile? I was losing control of the story. I was losing control of my life. Then Senator Harrington called. Stuart, his voice was calm but stern. I saw the news, the lawsuit. Senator, I'm so sorry, I began, mortified. I never wanted this to become. Stop. His voice was hard now, cutting through my apologies. This isn't your fault. Your ex-wife is trying to exploit your kindness. I won't allow it. I appreciate that, Senator, but I'm calling Gerald Mitchell, he interrupted. Federal judge, circuit court, an old friend. He's going to make some calls. Senator, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he insisted. You helped us because it was right. Now people are punishing you for it. That's not acceptable. 2 days later, December 6th, Rachel's lawyer withdrew the petition. No explanation. Just a one-sentence filing. Plaintiff withdraws claim without prejudice. Tim called me, utterly baffled. I don't know what happened. Shapiro won't return my calls, but you're clear. She can't sue again on the same grounds. But I knew what happened. Senator William Harrington, former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, had made a phone call. Someone had explained very clearly to Rachel's lawyer that continuing this case would be unwise. That night, Margaret called. Stuart, William tells me everything's resolved. Yes, ma'am, thank you. We didn't do anything unethical, she said, her voice gentle. Just reminded some people that kindness shouldn't be punished. She paused. There's something else. William and I have been talking. We'd like to set up an education trust for Emma, separate from the reward money, $100,000, a full ride to any university she wants. My voice broke. Margaret, I can't. You already said yes to the reward, she countered. This is different. This is for Emma, for her future. Please let us do this. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, even though she couldn't see me. One more thing, Margaret continued. Caroline's children are grandchildren. They want to meet you. The little girl, Sarah, she's 7, same age as Emma. Would you and Emma like to come to Maine for Christmas? December 25th, Christmas Day. Emma and I drove to Portland, Maine. Margaret and William's house was breathtaking, a Victorian mansion overlooking Casco Bay, warm, filled with light and laughter. Caroline's children were all there, 4 of them. The oldest 17. The youngest, Sarah, attached herself to Emma immediately. William pulled me aside while the kids played. Stuart, can I show you something? He led me to his study. The walls were lined with photos, Caroline at graduation, Caroline's wedding, Caroline with her children. And there on his desk, proudly framed next to a photo of Caroline, was Emma's crayon drawing. After Caroline died, William said quietly, his voice heavy with grief, I stopped believing in goodness, stopped believing the world had any kindness left. He gently touched the frame. Then you stopped in the snow with your little girl and you helped 2 strangers. It was just a tire, Senator, I murmured. No, he looked at me, his eyes piercing. It was proof that good people still exist. That the next generation, your daughter, my grandchildren, they're learning kindness from us. He handed me an envelope. This isn't money. Inside was a letter of recommendation. I called the dean at Boston College. They're looking for a mathematics program coordinator. $65,000 a year, benefits, stability. The job's yours if you want it. Senator, you changed a tire. Stuart, we're changing your life. Fair trade. I took the job. I started January 15th, 2016 at Boston College, Lynch School of Education as the program coordinator for the Mathematics Tutoring Initiative. Salary $67,000, health insurance, retirement plan, stability. Emma thrived, her grades soared. She stopped worrying about money because finally I stopped worrying about money. Rachel remarried, moved to California. She sees Emma twice a year now, sends cards on birthdays. The lawsuit was never mentioned again. 3 years later, in December 2018, I received a devastating call from Margaret. Stuart, William's in the hospital, heart attack, it's serious. I drove to Maine that night, my heart in my throat. William was in the ICU at Maine Medical Center, tubes and monitors everywhere. He looked old, frail, just like the man on the side of the road that Thanksgiving. Stuart, he whispered, his voice weak. You came. Of course I came. I wanted to tell you something. Gripped my hand, his strength surprisingly firm. That day with the tire, I was driving to see my grandchildren, but I was thinking about ending my life. My breath hitched, I froze. After Caroline died, he continued, tears tracing paths down his withered cheeks. I couldn't find a reason to keep going. Margaret was the only thing holding me together. But that day I was thinking maybe I just drive into a bridge, make it look like an accident. Then the tire blew and I thought, this is it. This is fate telling me it's time. He looked at me, his eyes full of raw emotion. And then you stopped. You saved my life, Stuart, not because you changed a tire, because you showed me that goodness still exists, that there are still people who stop. William, I said, my voice thick, I need you to promise me something. When I'm gone, don't let Emma forget. Don't let her forget that stopping for someone matters, that small acts of kindness can save lives. I promise, I choked out. William Harrington died 3 days later on December 14, 2018. His funeral was enormous, politicians, dignitaries, even former presidents. I sat in the back with Emma, both of us in black. Margaret found us afterward. He left you something, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a check for $100,000 and a note. It read, Stuart, this is not charity, this is investment. Invest in Emma's future. Invest in your own. And one day, when you see someone broken down on the side of the road, stop. Because you taught me that stopping matters, that small moments of kindness can change everything. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for reminding me that good people exist. That simple act of kindness born of a freezing Thanksgiving and a child's plea didn't just change my life. It saved another and created a legacy of unexpected generosity. It taught me that sometimes the biggest impact comes from the smallest, most selfless gestures. What about you? Have you ever had a small act of kindness completely change someone's life or even your own? Tell me your stories in the comments below. I'd really love to hear them.